Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Thursday, December 10th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. We talked Chiefs this morning on SportsBeat Live with columnist Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian, along with beat writers Sam McDowell and Herbie Teope, and now it's presented in podcast form. We chat about Sunday's opponent, the Miami Dolphins, and their new quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, the Chiefs' lack of success in the red zone over the past couple of games, and some possible changes coming along the offensive line. So let's get right to it.
Hey, good morning from Kansas City. Welcome to SportsBeat Live, our weekly show where we talk Chiefs with the people who know them best. And among those people are Sam McDowell. Sam, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Great. Sam Mellinger is here. What's up, Sam? We got the mute thumbs up, always good, and Vahe Gregorian in the house. What's up, Vahe?
I'm feeling good. I realize that when I see your smiling faces, it feels just like it did on mornings in South Florida, waking up to see the group of you.
Well, hold that thought. And of course, Herbie is with us on remote as he is as he's been all season. What's up, Herbie?
Going on. It's probably a good thing you have Melly muted so we don't get any F-bombs in the morning.
That's a good point. Very good point. And so that's the assorted panel. And of course, this show runs on your thoughts, comments, and questions. So please bring them. Everything you got. Talking Chiefs. We will try to get to as many of them as we can. So, as Vahe mentioned, guys, Chiefs heading back to Miami, second time this year in the third time this year in the Sunshine State, second time in Miami. So the last time the Chiefs ventured to South Florida, it was a pretty good deal for the Chiefs, for Kansas City. There was a parade a few days after that, and I got to tell you, our cracked research department went into the archives and found this little clip of the last time we had assembled together, maybe the last time the five of us saw each other in South Florida. Go ahead, Beth.
And then Sam McDowell. So the shirt's okay, but the pants, the shoes.
I have no flip-flops, but I don't think
Look, Mellinger goes all in by going barefoot to make up for the rest. So
strategic error when I pack. Right? Just gonna admit that up front.
All right.
That's a show.
Yeah.
And there's our good friend that we made down there that large enough to be the sixth panelist. The 2-foot-long iguana that found us.
You know, Blair, first of all, I didn't get the memo that everybody's wearing shorts that day. But the real takeaway from that is Herbie promised us he was going to jump in the pool when that show was over, and it never happened.
Never did.
I don't remember that. Need to know basis.
I seem to recall a football flying around in the back there, and with different degrees of skill.
I seem to recall Sam McDowell being quite skilled and leading me right into a wall.
That's accuracy.
But you held on to the ball, as I recall. You took the hit and came back for the next play. So
I did.
Anyway, that was a fun week, guys. And I do think that's unless the parade day or some assemblage of a show like this afterwards, that may have been the last time that we saw each other. The five of us were in the same room together, which says something about 2020, doesn't it? It's interesting.
Hey, Blair, while we're on this, because maybe we won't get a chance to come back to it, I was remembering this morning part of the way we all learned about each other those few days. I can't remember the line we had about Herbie, but I do think we came to this, that Blair woke up typing, I woke up talking, Mellinger woke up smiling, McDowell woke up wisecracking, and then Herbie, what did we have for you?
Sleeping, right?
Yes. Herbie woke up sleepwalking.
I was up before most of y'all. What are you talking about?
No, sweeping. Remember, he was
Sweeping. Cleaning. That's right.
You could eat off those floors.
We did.
All right, guys. So yeah, it's the Miami Dolphins. Interesting opponent, I think, for the Chiefs on Sunday, noon kickoff on CBS. You know, the way the NFL's schedule formula works, the Chiefs see their AFC West opponents twice during the year. They play the previous first place teams in the AFC. They play other teams in a singular AFC division. This year it's the AFC East, and then of course an NFC division, the NFC South. So what it means is there's about half the schedule of teams that you don't see on an annual regular basis, and the Dolphins is one of those. Chiefs haven't played them in a couple of years, and since the last time we've seen the Dolphins, new coach, new quarterback, new energy with Miami, and I wanted to get into that a little bit after we get from Herbie and an injury report. Go ahead and give it, Herbie. Then I have a question for you.
Yeah, the big one obviously is wide receiver Tyreek Hill. He didn't practice yesterday with an illness. And then you have offensive lineman, the rookie Yasser Durant, who also didn't practice with an illness. And their starting linebacker, Damian Wilson, with a knee injury. Hill obviously is the biggest name on there. There seems to have been a stomach virus type illness that has gone around with the Chiefs in recent weeks. Last week you had Clyde Edwards-Helaire who dealt with it. Rashad Breeland dealt with it. I don't know exactly if that's what Hill has going on or even if that's what Durant has going on. All Reed said yesterday was it's an illness, but it's not COVID related. So that's a good thing.
Well, if it's an illness that's going around the team, it's one that kept Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the game on Sunday night against the Broncos. Do you have to start thinking in those terms with Tyreek Hill, or do we just need to wait until we see some other injury reports later in the week?
Yeah, you're going to have to wait to see how this progresses during the week. The reason why Edwards-Helaire was not he was dressed, but he didn't play, was because Andy Reid said, hey, he lost some weight. Also playing into that is the 2 missed days. When you miss consecutive days of practice, it's kind of hard to make up for because you missed the install period. You missed the actual plays that are going to be run. So if you miss a large chunk of practices, you're already behind the power curve.
Okay, so we'll get another injury report today, and then the final one on Friday. Something to keep an eye on. So, all right, to the Dolphins. Here's an organization that changed coaches after the 2018 season. They bring in Brian Flores from New England. He starts his career 0-7 in Miami in 2019. Since then, the Dolphins are 13-8, and they have decided their quarterback of the future that they drafted in the first round, Tua Tagovailoa, one of 3 first-round picks, by the way, for the Dolphins this past year, checked in as the starter in week 6, I believe it was. Came off made his NFL debut in week 6, and then became the starter soon after that. Is 4-1 as a starting quarterback for the Dolphins. So, left-handed guy. Elusive, interesting player. I don't know. We try to end our show on predictions, and I'm not asking for predictions now, but how about a threat level concern for the Chiefs this weekend with the Dolphins? Sam Mellinger, what do you think? Have you gotten into the Dolphins much this week?
I haven't been watching their film or anything, but I think that this is a losable game. I think the Dolphins are a good team. I think that there's the possibility of the Chiefs playing something less than their best. With the Saints game next weekend, I think the Dolphins play really good defense. Tua hasn't thrown an interception yet. I think that's interesting. For a rookie, kind of being thrown into it. I know he's different than most rookies, right? He's a high level player, at least the Dolphins expect him to be. But I think this is a losable game for sure. Just the way they play defense, they've got some interesting weapons. Not just Tua, but the tight end. They've got some guys that can make plays. I think this is absolutely a losable game for the Chiefs.
With Tua, to me, that stands out to me is he has 2 quality wins. He started off at relieving Ryan Fitzpatrick, kicked it off with beating the Rams and the Cardinals in back-to-back weeks. So that, and the Rams are a pretty good team. The Cardinals are starting to tail off a little, but they're, at the start of the year, they came out like gangbusters. The quality wins is what jumps out to me.
Yeah. He's like I said, he's 4-1 as a starter. The loss came to Denver. I can't remember if that game was in Denver or Miami. It doesn't matter at this year where games are played, but he was sacked 6 times in that game. So I thought it was interesting that the Broncos were able to get a lot of pressure on Tua and confuse a rookie quarterback, making his whatever it was at the time, second or third start. And he got pulled in that game, and Fitzpatrick ended up starting the next game. Tua regained his start the following week. So it's pretty clear that just like with Justin Herbert with the Chargers, that Tua is the quarterback of the future with the Dolphins. One of the other interesting aspects about this Miami organization is, so they hire Brian Flores from the Patriots. There's like 4 starters on this Dolphins team that played in New England within a few years, including Kyle Van Noy, the linebacker, and a few assistant coaches. Defensive coordinator comes from the Patriots, and Brian Flores last year in New England was 2018, and that's the year that the Chiefs lost to New England twice, and in the regular season, and of course in the AFC title game. And Flores helped design the defensive game plans for both of those games. Now, Chiefs ended up scoring, 40 in one game and 31 in another. But I just remember that championship game, the first half defense that New England played was about as good as I have seen a defensive, team approach Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And so I wonder what the concern level for the Chiefs should be just with Brian Flores on the other sideline.
Well, Miami's got a good defense, and generally speaking, and not he didn't just design the game plan for that game. He also called the plays. A lot of people probably think that Bill Belichick, because defense is his preferred side of the ball, that he calls the plays, but he doesn't. And Flores was the guy calling the plays throughout that AFC title game. Of course, it's of note that Andy Reid made halftime adjustments to allow him to score 31 points in the second half. But yeah, this is a good defensive team for a reason, and it starts with that. That their coaching staff changes.
They've got some dudes on that side of the ball. Xavier and Howard. They've got some playmakers, and we talk a lot like the Bill Belichick coaching tree about how terrible it is. But Brian Flores has a chance to break that mold. He really does. I guess Mike Vrabel is doing that as well. Although I don't think he was ever an assistant for Belichick. But anyway. Flores has a chance. You can see that if you just watch them casually, you can see those guys play hard for him. They believe in him. They've got, this big plan. They, a little bit of tanky a few years ago, and now they're getting the draft picks that are paying off. It's an interesting build that they've got going there.
Yeah, part of it was trading away their best player, right, Minkah Fitzpatrick, to the Steelers to get a first round pick, and at this point, I heard this earlier this week that you can kind of compare the Dolphins of 2020 to what the Chiefs were in 2013, kind of at the doorstep of a stretch of success, and with different quarterback situation, of course, but I can sense that a little bit. I can see that as the Patriots decline in that division, the Bills and the Dolphins look like they're ready to step up and be the boss of that division.
The thing that impresses me the most about Brian Flores, and we hear this a lot in the National Football League, but he is clearly a player's coach, and Melly's absolutely correct. He's no Matt Patricia, and the Dolphins are winning right now. But the thing that impressed me the most was last week's game against the Bengals. You had that hard hit on special teams, and who was out there on the field yapping it up with the Bengals sideline? None other than Brian Flores. They had to pull him out of there. But, that fiery attitude, and his team rallied around him. The entire Dolphins bench rushed over there to his defense against the Bengals, where you had that scrum that ended up in multiple ejections. But the fact that he's leading from the front, and I can appreciate that.
So the Chiefs are going back to the stadium where they won the Super Bowl. The following week, they go back to another city where they won a Super Bowl, New Orleans. That's kind of cool, right? The Miami New Orleans double dip. And
hold up. Is Melly like doing this every time you say New Orleans and say?
No.
That's not the rule.
That's right. Hey, Herbie, we got Mark Giordano wants to know about Mitchell Schwartz and when we might see him.
This is okay. He's still on injured reserve. He was placed on it in November the 21st, and with the new COVID rules with injured reserve, they have to spend at least 3 weeks on the list. And so this would be the third week. If they're going to activate him off of injured reserve, they can do it starting after this week. He has to be able to practice first, and then they make that determination then.
Okay, very good. Hey, let's. So the Steelers ended up losing on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? I can't remember. Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was. Thank you to Washington and Alex Smith. What a fantastic comeback victory for Washington in that game. I think I saw the stat at the end that the Steelers had only lost one time when holding a double-digit lead or a 2-touchdown lead in their home stadium. And that was the second time that happened. Steelers were up 14-0. Washington came back and won that game. So that drops the Steelers to 11-1, along with the Chiefs. And Vasu asks, if the Steelers lose to the Bills and the Chiefs lose to the Dolphins, would the Chiefs exit Sunday as the number 1 seed? And that, of course, speaks to the thought that the Steelers still would be the number 1 seed right now because their loss came to an NFC team, and the Chiefs are an AFC loss. Both would lose to an AFC team this weekend. So I suspect
the Steelers would still be number 1
because of that, right? Because of that tiebreaker.
But the game with the Steelers in Buffalo is really big this weekend because let's change the Chiefs' loss to New Orleans, for example, and now they both have the same conference record. They both have lost one in conference and one to the NFC because first tiebreak is head-to-head. These two teams don't play head-to-head. Second is your conference record, so your record against AFC opponents. So let's say the Chiefs lose to New Orleans, and now they both have lost one out of conference, one in conference. Then you go to common opponents, your record against common opponents. Well, the Chiefs already beat the Bills. So that's why this game with the Steelers and Bills, it would be a really big loss for the Steelers if they lost to a team that the Chiefs have already beaten.
Okay. Hey, so that clever Chiefs playing in 2 Super Bowl victory sites over 2 weeks was supposed to be a segue into Vahe, your column today about the differences between where the Chiefs are defending a Super Bowl title in 2020 versus where they were in 1970. I can remember as we were building toward the Super Bowl last year, we wrote a lot trying to compare those Super Bowl teams, and now that they have the same accomplishment, it's a different world, is it not? Just not only in terms of time and but roster makeup and just approach might be different for the Chiefs now than it was 50 years ago.
For sure, in a few different ways, Blair. But the thing that really stands out the most is that 1969-70 Chiefs team was kind of at its apex. I mean, it hit the peak there. It could have had another prosperous year or two, but it was aging out. This team is at the other end of that arc, the other end of the spectrum. I talked to Dale Stram, Hank Stram's son, the other day, and Dale isn't just Hank Stram's son. I mean, he is pretty wired into the whole arc of the Chiefs' history, and also very candid. I mean, even willing to note that some of the things that also happened during that time were that his dad had not a great relationship with Jack Stedman, who was sort of in between the coach and the owner. And that led to all kinds of things. It's probably a column in itself that were sort of signified some upheaval. So I got thinking you planted the thought actually with me last week when you alluded to that in your preview about, that the Chiefs could but they could clinch a playoff spot last week, unlike the team in 1970. So I think what we can see now is sort of more synergy and harmony, whatever you want to call it, between the whole brass, right? Andy Reid to Brett Veach to Mark Donovan to Clark, much younger. If you really look at the most key players, there's a lot better numbers in this, but the easily superficial, simple ones to look at are Patrick Mahomes was 25. Len Dawson was 35 at this point when they're defending the championship. Johnny Robinson was 32. Tyrann Mathieu 28. And that's pretty emblematic of a younger core. So I in closing, I think I just say that you can be pretty struck by the difference in where the franchise was in these years of defending the championship. And this one really is way more poised to continue on than that team was.
Something I think about, and we'll get into this now that we know the Chiefs are in the playoffs. They're gonna win their division, and it's just a matter of seeding now for them. I don't think they can get caught by Buffalo, the only team with 3 losses, and it's basically between the Chiefs and the Steelers, right, for the 1 and the 2 seeds. So, the thing that strikes me is it's been a long time since a team has repeated as Super Bowl champion, right? The Patriots in 03 and 04 with them beating Andy Reid's Eagles team for the second one. And, the Patriots were in the playoffs all but 1 year after that up until last season. So they were, obviously quality team. They won 3 more Super Bowls after that, but they never repeated. That's how, that's how difficult history tells us it is to win back-to-back Super Bowls. But like I said, we'll get into more of that as we get closer to the postseason.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
I do want to cover the topic that has been on everybody's mind since the Broncos game, and that is problems in the red zone. We talked about it a little bit after the game, and Sam McDowell, you took a deeper dive into this topic this week. What'd you discover?
Well, what sort of prompted it, and Sam wrote a little bit about it after the game, but I just hear a lot whenever the Chiefs try and get cute towards in the red zone that that doesn't work, even though we've seen it work so many times. And so I not only looked at their failures in the red zone, but also their successes. And what stands out is those so-called cute plays that the gimmicks are what work best for them. And that's the problem, is that nothing else is really working for him right now. The stats on Clyde Edwards-Helaire attempts inside the 10 and 5 yard line are really glaring, like worst in the NFL glaring. I think he's carried the ball 13 times inside the 10 yard line. He's only scored on 1 of them. He's carried it 8 times inside the 5 yard line. He's scored on 1 of those. And every single other player in the NFL who's got at least 8 carries inside the 5 yard line has at least 2 touchdowns from that. And I think that's 22 guys. He also has got 0 yards out of his 8 carries. Now, obviously, you're not going to have a high yards per carry when you're carrying the ball inside the 5. But every single other player that has carried at least 6 times, there's 31 of those guys, has positive yards out of it. So to me, you could blame that on Edwards-Helaire, or you could blame that on the offensive line not getting enough push. Eric Bieniemy says this a lot. He says it so often that Patrick Mahomes quoted it yesterday in his press conference, which is, you've got to be able to run the football even when teams know you're going to run the football. And that's what the Chiefs can't do right now down close.
Yeah, Melly, I know your instant column after the game was on this topic. It was glaring. I mean, the last 7 trips to the red zone for the Chiefs have resulted in field goals. I want a clarification on this, because does the red zone start at the 20 or is it inside?
19.
The
Okay.
19, yeah.
All right, because the touchdown pass to Kelsey was a 20
yards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the streak goes on. What's incredible about that
Convenient
streak,
for the narrative, right?
it is. But it's really incredible that the team that leads the NFL by yards per game, by like 29 yards per game, I mean, clearly the best offense in the NFL, has gone more consecutive trips to the red zone without a touchdown than any NFL team has this whole season. That includes the Jets.
It is amazing what's happened here, and how much of this Brian LeBurge asked is it an offensive line issue? Melly, what do you think?
Yeah, that's part of it. I think that's a big reason why Andy does all these, the cute plays. Like Sam said, I mean, Andy's not doing that just to flex on people. He's doing it because that's the way to score. And this is not a new issue. This is something that we've been talking about for years. They have not been a straight ahead, run it behind your guards and your center kind of team. And to me, I don't think this is something that they can just like snap their fingers and they're a great red zone team, like with, traditional great red zone team, right? Like this is worth noting. Before the Tampa game, so before this 0 for 7, they were like, I think they were 8th in red zone percent, in touchdown percentage in the red zone. So you ask yourself, are they more the first 10 games of the season or more the last 2? I think they're more the first 10. That's a bigger sample size, all those things. But they do have some issues. And some of it is execution. And I believe that a huge chunk is the offensive line. I really do. But there's also a reason, and Sam pointed this out in the story that he wrote. Edwards-Helaire, he got like 7 carries in the red zone against Houston in the season opener. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then something like 6 the rest of the season. I mean, they just stopped trusting him. They don't think that that he has the patience or the vision, like in those situations, to find the hole. So that's part of it as well. It's personnel and it's execution. We should say too, you can't be, despite like, unless you're Patrick Mahomes or Mike Trout, like you can't be good at everything. And so the Chiefs have made decisions on, they're paying outside guys, they're paying skill guys, they're paying their tackles big money. You can't have all pros at every position, and they've chosen this to have, the interior of their line be more athletic for the screen game and those kinds of things. And so there is a trade-off there, and the trade-off is you got to figure something else out in the red zone.
Just a funny little twist on Andy in the red zone. I didn't know this before, something I worked on a month or so ago. But when he first got into the NFL coaching ranks in Green Bay and was hired as tight ends coach there, one of the first aspects of play design for him was Mike Holmgren incentivized his assistants to come up with red zone plays, and he'd pay him $100 if he used it. Like that was the big deal for Gruden, Mariucci, and Andy Reid. And apparently they had a little scoreboard up in their assistant coach's office where Andy was by far the leader in coming up with plays Holmgren used. So you would think that this would be going farther, but you'd also think it plays into the inventiveness we see as opposed to the ability to just blow people away.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid took some blame for the play calling, but I don't think that's it. I think his play calling is what makes them score on 55% of their red zone trips. And when you really look at it, because the stats are from the red zone, but the real issues are once they get inside the 10. They still have some room to stretch some things out because obviously, it's their speed that's negated the closer they get to the goal line. And so it's inside the 10 where they're really struggling. Heck, that's probably why the Kelsey touchdown worked on Sunday, Blair.
Well, I'll tell you, I think they have worn out Mahomes in motion. That's
Jump the shark.
Yeah, I don't think defenses are alerted anymore. I think the defensive response to what the Chiefs are doing in the red zone is to just stay sound and disciplined and Sam, as you said, the field is shorter. That's advantage defense in a lot of cases. And look, in the Dolphins, they're playing a very good defensive team. So maybe the solution is to not get into the red zone and have touchdowns originate from the 20 and back. Hey, Herbie, Brian asks if we think Wisniewski and Rankin will end up as starters at some point here down the stretch.
I'm going to say yes to Wisniewski. The jury's out on Rankin. Remember, Rankin was a healthy scratch this past week as they pulled up Wisniewski from the practice squad. But this goes back to what you guys were talking about earlier, about that offensive line. Remember early in the season, they had a guard who was a mauler. Kalichi Osemele was punching people in the mouth. He had some nice blocks on some big runs that sprung Edwards-Helaire early. And then he goes down with a knee injury. And the last time we really saw the Chiefs commit to a run game because they just couldn't get away from it because it was working was against the Bills. Now they just missed that nasty presence on the offensive line. You got to have guards who thrive and enjoy getting 3, 4, 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage and just punching a linebacker in the mouth. Those are the kinds of blockers that they don't have right now. But back to the original question, it wouldn't surprise me if Wisniewski does make it on the active roster for the rest of the year. It's easy to forget that last year, around this time, is when he was inserted into the lineup. And then, of course, Mr. Playoff, Mr. Postseason, Damian Williams goes off. So it's coincidence. Who knows? We'll see.
Osemele was their sort of their strongest, nastiest blocker, and Mitchell Schwartz is their best overall lineman. Both those guys are out. That stuff has to be mentioned as well. You're right.
So do we think we can see Wisniewski and Mitchell Schwartz for the playoffs? Starters on the play. Maybe the difference in offensive lines between now and early January.
I think so. I mean, remember I asked Andy Reid, what was that, last week, how Schwartz was doing on his recovery, and then whether we could expect him back in time for the postseason. Of course, we got the obligatory, we'll see. It's really going to depend on how Schwartz's back is recovering right now as he's taking this time to rehab.
I'll tell you what. You know what I think about with Osemele is in that the first snap. Was it the first snap of the Raiders game at Arrowhead? Mahomes over the top to Tyreek Hill and it gets wiped off the board because that's when Osemele was called for a borderline holding call. It was the next play that Osemele injured his knee. If that flag doesn't come down, Osemele walks off the field at that point and the Chiefs are up 7-0 in a game that they end up losing. So I can't help but think, just one flag changed Osemele's season and the Chiefs to, at least in that game.
Not to play Randy Kovitz, but it was actually both knees. That's how brutal that injury was.
Yes, I know. Right? Just in one flag. And I remember that later that day looking at the holding penalty and thinking that was, kind of like the Allegretti one on Sunday night. It was, I guess you could call it, but you didn't have to call it. But anyway, what's done's done, right? Hey, another one for you, Herbie. Leonard Sims asked, where's Willie Gay's progress at this point in the season, and what can we expect from him? I'll tell you, Willie Gay is a popular person on our show for someone that's just not playing a whole lot.
It's interesting how this is going. I mean, we all thought he would be worked into the starting line, and he did start. He started this past weekend, but then he only ended up playing 17 snaps, and Ben Neiman played more snaps than him. I think they're looking at him as more as a situational guy, and it's kind of fascinating. I think he might see more action against Miami because Miami is an up-tempo offense, and you're going to need speed out there to deal with some of those weapons that they have. But with Willie Gay, it's kind of a head-scratcher at this point because we are now well into the second half of the season, and we figured he would be out there all the time, but that just hasn't happened yet.
He had the one play.
Every time we ask, go ahead, Blair.
I was going to say he had one play where he looked like he was going to get to Drew Lock, and he flew by, and Lock stepped up, and Gay flew by him. Just kind of needs a little more, I guess, discipline or know when to decelerate when he gets to the quarterback.
That was actually a good thing, because he flushed Lock out of the pocket and then Lock threw the interception to Matthews. I thought that was a pretty good play.
And anytime we ask Steve Spagnuolo about it, there's sort of always a reference to the difficulty of learning this defense and his system. So I think that's why we don't see him more on the field right now.
Yeah, and I think we've identified him as one of the first-year players who really would have benefited from a preseason and off-season training and that sort of all the stuff that got that was done via Zoom and not in person. So, okay, hey, just a couple of news items. Vahe, this is for probably a conversation for you and I because of our age, but. I thought it was a really neat story this week that Patrick Mahomes and Laurent Duvernay-Tardif were part of the group of 5 that were identified as the Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year. Herbie may remember this. I don't believe the Sams would. Do you remember when Sports Illustrated's Sports Person of the Year was about the biggest honor in sports? And I can remember when that came out at the end of the year. That was on national news. I mean, the Walter Cronkite would talk about being the Sports Illustrated Person of the Year. I don't mean to diminish it, and I think it's a great honor and everything like that. It's just kind of changed in scope over the years, but a very nice honor for Mahomes and LTD.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I do think it still is very meaningful, but I think like a lot of things, there's so much more media, so many more things happening all at once. It's a little diluted these days. I don't think Sports Illustrated, holds the same place in the broader landscape that it once did, right? Just like a lot of things. But the honor's great. And it got me thinking, Blair, and I know the other 3 lads on this probably can't speak to this, although we still don't know how old Herbie is. But it got me looking up like my first Sports Illustrated. So I think my first was February 14th, 1972. It was Ken Dryden on the cover. First time I got the subscription came in. So I was trying to remember who the Sportsman of the Year was that year. It was like Jackie Stewart, and I think I probably ignored that because I didn't care that much about it. But over time, you started seeing the meaning of that award, and as you got a little older and more understanding of the meaning of it has changed over the years. By the way, too, though, I think we can say that. I mean, that case in point. Sort of a funny twist on this. Funny is the wrong word, but an interesting twist on this to call it the activist athlete this year. And I tried to get into this a little bit in the column, right? I mean, Patrick absolutely has been a force for good and change, but I think you could ask questions about, what really constitutes pure activism. And meanwhile, I know Sam Mellinger, sorry to put words in your mouth, Sam, but I know you feel like this. And I and probably other guys on this really feel like the Sportsman of the Year is Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. I mean, it just is. I think it's an unparalleled thing. But in this context, it's all kind of interesting to bring it all together.
Mahomes gets such a head start on these things just because of how amazing he is at football. That's why he had the voice to talk about, voting. And all these other things. But my God, I mean, what LDT did is without precedent, right? Like in the history of the planet, like there's not a precedent for a guy like this, a starter on a Super Bowl champion, walking away to be on the front lines of fighting COVID. It's absolutely incredible.
And just today, we learned that Travis Kelce was the Chiefs nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So, look, the Chiefs do a fantastic job in the community. There's no doubt about it. And you can make a case for Tyrann Mathieu and in his off-season contributions to the causes that the Chiefs and the NFL have had. So. There's just a lot of good stuff there with the Chiefs, but I agree with you guys. What Laurent Duvernay-Tardif did this year is amazing. He gave it all up for this calling. I just think it's incredible. So didn't get to everything I wanted to. Maybe in the next few weeks we can talk about some other topics here, like Patrick Mahomes' girlfriend becoming a team owner. I thought that was. It's kind of an interesting piece of news this week. And she's part of the ownership group for the new Kansas City women's pro soccer team. And
there might be a lot more on that team on the website tomorrow morning.
Just saying.
and not just that, but also, if I may, Blair, also on a competing podcast.
Whoa. Well, I'll look forward to that. Mellinger Minutes for my ears on Friday. Well, I'll look forward to that. That's great. That both a column and a podcast. I believe that's called something along the lines of every piece of meat from the buffalo.
That's right.
So, all right, you guys. Good show. Appreciate you stopping by, Sam, Vahe, and Herbie. Thank you all for your questions and comments. And big thanks to Beth Welsh for producing today. And we will talk to you again sometime, thankfully, in the late afternoon on Sunday and not early the next morning, as has been the case too often this year. So take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you on Sunday.
That will do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. Tip of the cap to Sam Mellinger, Vahe Gregorian, Herbie Teope, and Sam McDowell for stopping by and talking Chiefs. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we got another deal for you, especially for those who want to deep dive into the Stars' terrific Chiefs coverage. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/SportsPass2020. That's kansascity.com/SportsPass2020. Do you want more than just sports coverage? I know I do. Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And if you're having any trouble hunting down any of these offers, send me an email, bkerkhoff@kcstar.com, and I'll get you to the right place. Whether it's a Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Friday with another episode.